Okay, so let's do the coding for the main activity where we want to launch activity 2. So I'm going to close down everything now and let's just get back to our structure. I'm going to open up the main activity and activity main. Now remember, in activity main, what we want to do is to ask the user for his name and then go to activity 2. So first thing, before we ask the user for his name, let's go and see how we go to the second activity. So in order to go to a second activity, that's the BTN activity 2 button that needs to be clicked. We're going to create a new intent object. So we're going to say intent, and that's the Android.content intent. Call it whatever you want, equals new intent. Now this intent object takes now 2 arguments. The first argument will be where you're launching this activity from, which is obviously from our main activity. So I'm going to say main activity.this for the first argument. The second argument must be your fully qualified package name with the file that you want to launch. So I want to launch activity 2. Now in your manifest file, if you open up the Android manifest, you can see there's one activity which is called the main activity, and you can see it's a .main activity. So it comes from this package com.jjurious.explicitintents.main activity, the same project folder you can see under your Java folder. Okay, and then you can see there's activity 2 and there's activity 3 also listed, and it's also a activity, so it comes from the same package. And then your main activity, you'll see that it's got an intent filter with an action of main and a category of launcher, which means that this class with this name, we called it main activity, is the main activity, and it's the activity that will launch. So if you want activity 2 to launch, you can just go and change the name there to activity 2 and maybe make this one main activity. Okay, so that's the manifest. Your new activities will be listed here automatically, and we need to reference them. Okay, so now for the second activity there, we need the fully qualified name for the class that we need to reference or we need to activate. So we want to activate activity 2, which is in com.jjurious.explicitintents.activity2. So let's see how we do that. So you're going to say com.jurious.explicitintents. In this case, activity 2. Let me just go to a new line there. And then at the end, you're going to add a .class. Remember that Java files get compiled into class files, and that's the file that we want to launch, which is the activity2.class file. Okay, so this is the intent, and this intent will now have the message to say we want to launch activity 2. How do you launch the new activity? By just calling start activity, and then in brackets as the argument you pass in your intent object. So this intent object being passed through will then have the message to say we want to start activity 2. So if I run this now, just give some time for it to run or to start running on the device. Okay, and there's the app. It's running. It's go to activity 2, go to activity 3. So if I click now on go to activity 2, you will see it goes to the activity 2 that says welcome to activity 2. If I click on the back button, we're back at the main activity. So that's how you move between different screens or activities in Java. You need to, or in Android, you need to go and create a new intent object saying what you want to do. In this case, from the main activity, I want to launch activity2.class. And then if you click on the button, that's exactly what it does. It launches your activity2.class. Now let's say we want to add the user's name there, then click on go to activity 2 and then show his name on this side. Okay, so we can do that by adding some data to my intent object that I created. So I'm going to say intent.putExtra, and now the putExtra method accepts 2 arguments, a key and a value pair. So the key will just be the name of the data you're sending through. So I'm going to say this is a username that I'm passing through. And the second argument will be the value for what you're passing through. So let's just first get that value. I'm going to declare that as a name. And I'm going to say the edit text on the main activity, this one, where the user enters his name, is called etName, and we named it the same encoding, etName. So I'm going to go to etName.getText.toString, and if you like, you can use the trim method to just remove any leading white space or trailing white space of what the user entered. So now whatever the user entered there in please enter your name in that edit text will be saved into the name variable, and the name variable is what we want to send through. So your putExtra method has got a key and a value pair that you send through. So this is the name of the data, and that's the value of the data. So we're sending through data called username, and it will be whatever the user typed. So also note here that for the second argument, we are passing in a string and not anything else. So please just note that. We're going to get back to that now. Now, if we launch this activity, remember it goes to activity 2. I don't know why mine won't open up there. Okay, so there's activity 2. So on activity 2, we've got one text view there. And we want to set whatever the guy typed there. When we go to activity 2, we want to say, welcome to that guy. So how do we get the data from that intent that was passed through? So in order to get an intent that activated the activity, you're going to call getIntent. So remember now in the main activity, there's the intent. We use the putExtra method. We started the activity. Which activity? Activity 2. When it gets to activity 2, I can call getIntent, which will then get me this intent object with the extra data. Okay, so now on the getIntent, there's a lot of get methods. You can see there's a getStringExtra, the one that we're going to use. There's Boolean extra, there's byte extra, there's character extra, there's double, float, integer, whatever. So it depends on the value that you indicate as the second argument there. In this case, it's a string. So if I want to get back that string, I need to say getStringExtra. If it was an int, you would have said getIntExtra. And then as the argument, you need to indicate the key, and the method will return the value. So remember, we had a key and a value pair. So on the other side, you indicate the key and it returns the value. So in name, we will have whatever the user typed there in name. Okay, so then we make a connection to the text view. That's fine. And then to that text view, let's just set some text there. And the text that we want to set there will be the name plus, and let's just put a comma, welcome to activity 2, and an exclamation mark. So let's save quickly and run this and see how it runs. Okay, so the changes has been applied. Let's enter the name John. Go to activity 2 and you see it's been added there as John. Welcome to activity 2. So just to recap quickly, in the main activity, there's your intent object. On that intent object, we indicate we want to launch activity 2. And then with that intent, we add some data, a key and a value pair. And if you want to add some extra there, some extra data, you can also just go and say intent.putExtra again, and have another key and a value pair. And you can also get that the same way on the other side. So you can have as many putExtra methods there as you like. And then when you call start activity, it activates activity 2, passing through this data, and you get the data by calling getIntent.get one of the methods, getStringExtra or whatever, indicating the key, and it will return the value for you. And you can set the text there. Right, now for the last part, we want to go back to the main activity quickly. So if we click on activity 3, we're going to go to activity 3. So where's activity 3 now? This one. And on activity 3, we will get a box that says, please enter your surname and the submit button. Now both of them in activity 3, let me just see. We've connected them already, so that's all set up. So we want the user to enter his surname there, and then if he clicks on submit, we want to go back to the main activity and display let's maybe display his name and his surname on that side. Okay, so let's see how we're going to do that. First, in the main activity, we need to go and create a new intent object. So we're going to say intent equals new intent, and we indicate the main activity.this as the class that will launch it, and then the fully qualified name that we want to launch. I'm just going to copy it from there, and it's going to be activity 3 in this case. So now we're going to launch activity 3, but instead of saying start activity, we will use start activity for result, which you can see takes in an intent and a request code. So we're going to just pass in our intent that we created now, and then the request code should be something that uniquely identifies this specific activity, which is activity 3. So I'm going to have a final int there as a constant, and I'm going to call it activity 3, and I'm going to assign it the value of 3. It should be just something unique there that will uniquely identify activity 3. So I'm going to pass in activity 3 there, and you'll see where we're going to use that now. So now, just after or inside the main activity, but after the onCreate, there I'm going to add the method. Okay, so I'm going to right click, I'm going to say generate, and you can see there's override methods, and we're looking for the onActivity result method. So as soon as there's a result that's coming back to this activity, this method will run, and the picture will become clearer as we carry on. But you'll see as part of the activity result or the onActivity result method, there's a request code that was passed in, a result code, and an intent with data. So the request code will be this specific request code that we passed in. So when we are activating the activity 3 and it comes back to this class, it will activate onActivity result, and then we're going to use this request code to see where did it come from. So we can use it in an if statement. If it's activity 3, we know it was activity 3 that activated this onActivity result. So we'll come back to the onActivity result method, but for now, what we did is we created the intent that will launch activity 3, and we start that activity, but just something new for result, which we'll get to now. So the activity 3 then, if we open up activity 3, you will see that on the layout file, we've got this. We want the user to enter his name and then submit. Okay, so he's going to enter his name, and then when he clicks on submit, we're going to go back to, we want to go back to the main activity. So let's see how we're going to do that. So the first thing that we need to do is to ask the user then for his surname, and that we've done. So we're going to say string surname equals, and then its et surname is the connection we made, dot get text, dot toString, and you can use the trim method if you want to. Okay, so now we've got whatever the user typed in activity 3. So there he typed something and he clicked on the button. So as soon as he clicks on the button, we get whatever he typed, we save it into the surname. Now we're going to create an empty intent. So we're going to say intent equals new intent. And I'm not going to use this intent to do anything else because we started this activity for a specific result. We're going to see how that works now. So to this intent, I'm going to add some data. So I'm going to say intent.putExtra. The name of the data, the key value pair, I'm going to say it's surname and then passing in the surname. So the name, the key of the value that I'm passing through is called surname, and the variable that I'm passing through is also surname. So the name for the data is surname. Then after doing that, we can then just call one last line that says set result. So we're going to say set the result, and you can see there it accepts a result code and then an intent. So I'm going to say the result code should be result OK, which means that everything went fine. And then the second argument will be my intent, which will send through the data. And then when I'm done with this, I will just finish my activity. So we can just say this.finish, which will finish the activity, or maybe just saying activity 3.this.finish to make sure that we are actually finishing off this activity. So what happened in this onClick? we got what the user typed, we created a new intent, added some data to the intent, used the setResult method. Now, why using the setResult method? Because in the main activity, we said start this activity for a specific result. So when it goes this side, we must set the result to, okay, the result was okay, everything went fine this side. I'm passing in the intent, which carries the surname, and then we close down the activity. So as soon as this activity closes down, it goes back to the main activity, to the onActivity result method. The request code will be the request code that we sent through. The result code will be the result code that we set there, which is the result okay. And then if you look at, now I close down the main activity, let me just open it up again. If you look at the last argument there, the data part there, then the data is an intent, and that will be the intent that you pass through with the setResult method. Okay, so back at the main activity, we've got a few things that we can do now. So I'm going to test if the request code is the same as activity 3, then we know that activity 3 is the one that activated this method on activity result. And at the same time, the result code equals result okay. Come on. If it equals result okay, then we know we can do what we want to do, because then everything was working fine. So the request code shows that it comes from activity 3. That's a request code there. The result code is whatever you used as setResult there. And then if everything is fine, the request code came from activity 3, so the data came from activity 3, and the result was okay, then we can do something now. So now we can get that intent object, or that intent, which is that one there. So we can say, let's just, at the top of this method, we're going to say string surname, and then we can say in the if statement there, surname equals that intent, which is called data, dot get string extra, and indicating the name of the data that was passed through. So remember, back at activity 3, we gave it a key surname with the data surname. So use that same key on this side for the surname as the key, and it will return the value on that side. Okay, so now on the main activity, we've got this. At the top, remember that we've got a TV message, and that's where we want to set the data. So there on that one there, which is called TV message, we will display the data. So back in the main activity, we now have that surname that we typed in activity 3, and we can now set the data. So we're going to say TV message dot set text, set text, and the text we want to set. Remember, we've got the surname, so let's just quickly get the name as well, and the name will be from the et name variable. So let's say, let's just declare a new variable there. So we're going to say string name, and then saying the name should be et name dot get text dot toString dot trim, and we've got the name. So now we set the text, and we will say something like, let's just put the name plus a space plus the surname. Okay, so let's just test this app quickly. If we run it now, say okay. Okay, there's the app. So I can type a name now there. Let's say John. Go to activity 2, and it will say, welcome, John, welcome to activity 2. If I go to activity 3, I can type a surname there, Peters, click on submit, and then it says John Peters. Okay, so let's just recap this quickly again. For button number 3, we launch activity number 3, but we start that activity for a result, which means on the other side, we need to set a result. So we start the activity for a result, passing the intent and the request code called activity 3. This side, we get the name that the user entered, create a new intent so that we can send that data back. So we say intent.putExtra with the key value pair, and we set the result. Why do we set the result? Because on this side we started the activity for a result. So we set the result code to result OK, passing in the intent. And as soon as we finish this activity, it goes back to the main activity into the onActivity result method. The request code will be the request code that we indicated there. The result code will be the result code that we indicated here at result OK. And the intent called data will be the intent that we passed in with the set result method. And then from here we tested if the request code is activity 3, which means that it comes from the activity number 3, and the result code is set to OK, then we can do all of these and set the message. Now something else we can also just quickly test here is we can have an else there, else if the result code, let's say if the result code, variable result code is result cancelled, then we can just show a toast or something and say the user did not enter anything. Okay, so let's say the result is cancelled. When we run the app now, you can see there's some cases where it will cancel the result. Okay, so they restarted my activity. If I go to activity 3 and I enter nothing, I just go back, you can see the user did not enter anything. Okay, so the result will be cancelled if you go to an activity that's set for a result and it did not actually go and call the finish there on the activity. So we did never click the button there. We didn't click the button. We just clicked on go back, and then the result will be set as cancelled. And you can also catch that result code by using cancelled.